With regard to impacts to port activity, there are references in several places in the report about significant and unavoidable traffic disruptions that will affect not only the health and safety of individuals, but will affect economic activity in downtown and the port. I do want to note there is no such thing as a significant and unavoidable traffic disruption. That's a term in CEQA, and traffic disruptions are not CEQA impacts. That being said, we understand that's a distinction without a difference to the general public. And for those who are experiencing traffic disruptions, nobody likes them. So, and they do have the potential to create the types of negative externalities that the professor discussed. And so this is something that we spent a great deal of time in the drafting of the EIR, working with the port, who had its own independent traffic consultant who peer reviewed all of the city consultants' work and in fact stress tested that work to see, look at several worst case scenarios about what might happen if some of the assumptions in the traffic analysis were incorrect. What we found is that with all of that offsite infrastructure investment that needs to be made, traffic flow at Adeline and 3rd, which is the main entry point to the port, would improve as compared to current conditions. It would improve on game days and it would improve every day. The intersection of 5th and Union Street, which brings port drayage trucks from I-80 to the seaport, would also improve, and overall, most streets will operate similarly on game days as compared to existing conditions. So all of that investment in infrastructure is not for nothing. It does buy us quite a bit of improvements in terms of traffic flow as well as traffic safety, multimodal options that don't exist today, bikes, peds, more sustainable forms of transportation. This one was puzzling, so I just wanted to call it out because it's really completely inaccurate, and I want to set the record straight on this. There is no concept that the phase 1 stadium development would be allowed to open with only on-site infrastructure in place. All infrastructure improvements and operational measures that are required to mitigate potentially significant transportation safety impacts or address non-safe CEQA traffic impacts like traffic congestion are clearly identified in the EIR in 140 pages in great depth as either mitigation measures or non-CEQA recommendations. Most of those are required prior to ballpark opening. There is also a section of the report which is dedicated to the turning basin. For those who are not familiar, there is an existing turning basin at the southwest corner of the site. The port has reserved 10 acres of the 50-acre site in their term sheet with PAs for construction or enlargement or realignment of that turning basin. As the ships that call the port grow longer, the turning basin is sort of becoming too small. And so there has been a project moving forward in parallel led by the port and the Army Corps of Engineers to identify the best alignment for that. The tentatively selected plan, which was published in December of 2021 by the Army Corps, in fact, requires only about 2.5 acres. So remember, the port set aside 10. Army Corps says we think we only need 2.5. And the port's term sheet requires, and I'm going to quote here, that the A's waive any claims to payment or compensation from the port for the port's election to use all or any portion of those lands. So the idea that this would be costly or difficult to implement seems unlikely to me.